Yeah.
No, yeah. Hey, Alonso is with us, which is nice because
That's
Shriti,
yep, that's great.
we're gonna yeah. That's fortuitous because look at bullet item number 3. This is
We're actually set up for a meeting this week, me and Alonso. Hey Alonso, welcome to the call.
Hey, good
Welcome to the
morning.
community. Hey, good
Hey, good
morning.
Hi,
afternoon.
good morning.
Morning, how have you been?
Good. I'm sorry that I haven't been able to be online on Slack, but finally I'm here. Thanks.
Great, that's perfect actually. I have to decide on a meeting date with you this week.
okay.
Couldn't
Do
reach
it.
you
Do
on
it.
Slack
Can,
then.
can you guys do that right now? You
Sure.
guys, what time?
Alonso, when
Um,
are you free?
Okay. Yeah.
Great. When would you be free this week?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Do you, Alonso? You don't happen to have time just after this call, do you?
Yes. This morning I can be online for a couple of hours, if even. Yes.
Nice.
Perfect. Let's have a conversation after this call, if that's okay.
Yes. Yes. Of course.
Perfect. Right. All right. Let's begin. We are a couple of minutes in. All right. Welcome everybody to the Meshery Dev Call. We take this call once a week to discuss everything related to the Meshery project and around it. If you have any issues, now would be the perfect time to add it to the agenda list. If you don't, and if you're here just to observe, please speak up in between the meeting to give updates or to give reviews on the things that we're talking about. You're very welcome to do so. If you can see the screen that Lee is sharing right now, you should be able to access the same exact doc. A link has been shared in the meeting chat. If you can't access it, please do speak up and let us know. We'll make sure that you can. Post that, before we start off with any of the heavy stuff, are there any newcomers for this particular call? People who haven't attended this call before? I don't think so, except for welcome back Favor. And if I'm pronouncing that right, that wrong, please do correct me. All right.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
Great. Perfect. I got one right. Finally. All right. All right. Let's start off with the agenda. It resumes. Yes, the Meshery CRE working group meeting is resuming from this week. It will happen on every second and fourth Thursday of every month. You should have gotten an invite, and if you haven't, or if you want to attend nonetheless, please do contact me. I'll make sure that you get an invite and make sure that you can access it. Also, you can find a link on the meetings table that Lee is just showing. A link to that should be in the meeting minutes, and if it's not, just go to the DeFi website, go to community, and you'll see the table in flesh. All right, moving on. Is Utkarsh on the call?
Yep, I am.
Go ahead.
Just
By the way, if anyone has any other topics, feel free to drop them down below. Just remembered Vinayak wanted to talk about Meshery UI. So.
I think, sorry to interrupt. Before we start, I just had a quick question regarding the setting up of the project. So last time that I tried to set up Meshery, there was this one issue which was pending that required me to set up my Kubernetes before I set up the Meshery. So like, is that issue resolved? Because if not, so then because again, Kubernetes was not a given requirement for the Meshery setup, right? So I think there was this one issue that was pending.
Yeah, were we talking about Minikube at the time as well? Like,
I think so. I'll just quickly like I had this conversation once on the Slack.
Yeah,
And I'm not sure that.
yeah, there was a defect that was, well, it was a little bit hard to pin down, and a few people had been experiencing it. Meshery interacts with Kubernetes quite a bit, and the way that it wants to authenticate to the Kubernetes environment is to use your kube config, and inside your kube config, it looks for a certificate to use to authenticate to Kubernetes. It had been the case that there was a essentially a bug that was fixed actually by Utkarsh in each of the adapters, where they wouldn't really pay a lot of attention to the fact that they're trying to reference a certificate that they don't have access to and couldn't find, and so a lot of times that would people would get stuck in a loop. That's been fixed. There's a set of functionality that you should be able to run in Meshery without Kubernetes, and that's around performance management. So you should be able to do performance tests without having to have Kubernetes available. As soon as you
No,
start
actually,
to,
I think there was just a. Please go
okay.
ahead. Sorry.
Oh, well, as soon as you start to run an adapter, things start to get a little dependent on Kubernetes.
Right. I think there was this one sort of error that I was getting while I was firing up the Meshery. So I'll just like refer back and show you exactly tell you the pinpointed error. So it was like some bug as Dave highlighted, Dave Kalra was it was due to a cluster not running up, and it was Desh was working on this. So it was basically I was not able to run up the instance, and it shows me invalid memory address or a null pointer dereference. This was some type of segment violation error. So it is more of an error rather than like a warning. So it's not actually allowing me to like set up the project even in the first run itself.
Oh, okay, yeah, definitely. Let's make sure that you're up and going before end of the call.
Okay.
And Vinayak has some similar setup type questions, so it's
All right. Utkarsh, please go ahead.
Okay, so should I share my screen? I mean, and it's visible, right?
yeah, it is.
Yep, it is.
Yeah, so like earlier we used to support only 9 adapters. That's not only actually. We used to support 9 adapters. Now we have added another support for another adapter that is Meshery, that is Traffic Mesh adapter. So that's the only adapter I have running right now. So uh, there are few adapters that don't actually support this, like deploying Traffic Mesh onto custom namespaces, but Traffic basically right now Traffic Mesh supports that because adapter supports it. So let me show you the installation. So so yeah, so like traffic meshes come up on the traffic system namespace. That is the one that is specified. There are few things that traffic mesh adapter also supports. That is deploying sample application. This is common among all of the adapters that Meshery supports. So you can deploy this one too. SMI conformance has been one of the things that a few adapters had issues with. Fortunately, traffic mesh is not one of them. We have identified what the issue was, and probably it will get fixed in all the adapters really soon. And this one will take time, actually. I don't know. this is the traffic mesh that we just installed. And this is the sample application that we installed, and this is also running on traffic system. I mean, on the same namespace that we wanted to deploy. So my conformance actually takes like it takes some time to run actually. So it would be difficult to show the logs in here. Should I show the custom configuration also? Because this is actually
Yeah,
quite
or just describe it so that folks.
accidentally closed the browser. Yeah, so one of the things that this wrapper also supports is that you can actually provide in custom YAML in here, and you basically anything that you want to deploy, and that's if that is not actually present in here, you can basically paste in your YAML in here, and traffic basically the wrapper would handle the installation of basically addition or deletion. You can actually add that custom YAML to a particular namespace, or you can actually delete the same. So this is for like more of the manual stuff that you would like to do using this adapter. Uh, so,
So actually, this is an appropriate time maybe to interject a quick note for everyone's benefit, but Rodolfo in particular. Rodolfo, you were recently asking about connecting Meshery with Prometheus and Grafana. These are common add-ons that service meshes will ship with. And so for the majority of them, it is the case that you can use Meshery to deploy the service mesh. Also, some of them will automatically deploy with an instance of Grafana and Prometheus. Others of them leave that as an optional component. And so most commonly, when people are using Meshery, they'll use Meshery to deploy the mesh and Grafana and Prometheus. And then Meshery is, well, it has you can go into settings and connect to Grafana and Prometheus. Soon, and even now, Meshery is auto detecting whether or not there's an instance of Grafana or Prometheus in the environment. If there is, it will links to those instances will be shown in the settings area. Some of the contributors are working toward making that having Meshery connect to those instances a little more automatic in certain use cases. So Rodolfo, okay, so sorry. So I bring this up. That sounds like a total aside. Sorry, I brought it up because when users use the apply custom configuration and that modal comes up with what looks like a terminal window, what happens is they paste in YAML, they paste in Kubernetes manifests that will change, customize and change the behavior of their service mesh. And I think a good resource here for everyone, actually, but Rodolfo, just to help answer your questions around Prometheus and Grafana, there are a set of 3 workshops that walk people through. Well, there's a set of 3 workshops, and there's a couple of interactive labs that walk through how to deploy Prometheus and Grafana and how to have Meshery connect to them. And so I'll drop a link into the meeting minutes to those workshops because they're open to all of you to walk through.
so, and like deploying Grafana and Istio, I think we have it already in the Istio adapter. Yeah, it's one of the add-ons. So you can deploy. I mean, for Istio, you can please deploy it from here, Prometheus in Grafana. Just for reference.
And Utkarsh, your voice is really low. If there's anything you might be able to do. like swallowing the mic might be good because it's very soft. It's very soft.
Is it better now?
Yeah, it's louder.
Okay. Yeah, so basically I was saying that basically I was pointing out that you can actually deploy Prometheus and Grafana from here if you want to. Like this is one thing. One of the add-on that Istio supports. Linkery comes with it. So yeah, just pointing it out. And yeah, I think we are done. I mean, I showed the installation. Let me also show the installation. So I installed everything in a traffic system, namespace at the uninstalling. This is also a new addition. Previously, you used to get a modal that you would click in here to to see basically get the details of the operation. This is another addition that happened recently. You can click onto it. Not the best color combination, I believe, but if you click on here, you would get to see the details of the operations that just happened. So even if it is an error, which I am going to do right now, I'm going to introduce an error. Oh, why did it? Okay. Yeah. So just pretty. So yeah, this was also an addition. Like previously, if you would come in here, so it would show you the count as 4. So you may just freak out that there are 4 errors. No, there are not. There is only 1 error. So the count would if you have an error, the logo would the icon would change and it would show you that hey, there's 1 error, and you can go in here and look at the details. So this was also a recent addition, and you can basically realize that there is no traffic mesh installed in the namespace, and that is why it threw an error. So that's it. Anything, any questions that someone may have? I hope I was all.
Cool. So like two pieces of trivia for everyone. So Utkarsh, this is great. Like it's almost a non-event at this point that there's another Meshery adapter. That's kind of a ridiculous thing to be able to say. Oh, by the way, no, I have 3 pieces of trivia. So one is, dude, you know what? I'm going to ask these questions and somebody's going to have to go figure out the answer. So how many service meshes are out there? Does anyone know the number of service meshes? That answer varies depending upon how you really want to count it up. The reason I mention it is, well, because we have another adapter, but also because there's another service mesh that's going to be announced soon. And that group has reached out to us to have a conversation. So if anyone is interested in participating in that conversation with that new service mesh, just let me know. And I'll include you on the meeting when they want to catch up. I'll by the end of the meeting, I'll go look up the name of the folks, so that way you can judge your interest. Okay, that's one piece of trivia. How many meshes are there, and the fact that there's another one coming out. Another piece of trivia is, so Utkarsh, you said there are 9 adapters. Is that the deal?
There were 9. I think there are 10 now.
10. Okay, good. That sounds like a better number. Okay, good. That's a nice number anyway, 10. Okay. So 10 adapters. All right. Second piece of trivia. Lastly, traffic mesh. It uses sidecars. It will sidecar proxies next to, actually, I'm sorry, I'm entirely misspeaking. I'm setting up the question poorly. So most of the meshes that all of you are familiar with will have this architectural model in which they will sidecar a proxy adjacent to your service. That's not the case for traffic mesh. I'm going to try to find an illustration. And Utkarsh, do you have anything else to show here? Otherwise, I'll share.
No, I think I'm done.
Any other questions for Utkarsh? So nice, good. So as we go to tie off the discussion on traffic mesh, the part of the trivia that I was saying is that you'll normally, or most of the service meshes that you're familiar with, or I suspect that you're familiar with, are have this type of model where you'll take your workload and you'll onboard the workload onto the mesh. When you do, your workload, your application, will be the recipient of many proxies, a proxy sidecar next to each of your services. This is not the model for traffic mesh. Traffic mesh has a different model. And I don't think this deck that I'm in has a diagram of what that model looks like. Not this deck, but there are other decks that do. It is the model of really it's a proxy per node. Basically a daemon set for your proxies. So I don't have a quick visual to pull up, but if people are interested, I'll find the illustration and show you. So there are pros and cons. Actually, there are pros and cons to having that type of a proxy model, sidecar versus one per node. The short book that's free for all of you to read, this one, it talks about those two models, and it contrasts the value or the pros and cons of one model versus the next. Linkerd version 1, it had that same daemon set model, that same node agent model. It did not sidecar proxies. Linkerd v2 does. Anyway, traffic mesh, they're a holdout, so to speak. And I know that they wouldn't put it in, they wouldn't say it like that. And I don't particularly mean that they've chosen a bad model. That's not the case at all. There's benefits to running a mesh like that. So I'll leave that to you, the reader, in this short book. Cool. Okay. Thank you for that, Utkarsh. I sent a couple of notes in chat about workshops that people can walk through. I also sent a link to some interactive labs that Shridi has put a lot of time into, and some others have assisted. But Shridi's looking for feedback on the interactive labs here. So as you go to get familiar with like Grafana and Prometheus, I believe, Shridi, one of the labs in here covers that. Is that right?
Yep, it does.
Nice. Cool. Okay. Nice. All right. A lot of topics. And when I said in here, I was sharing the wrong screen, but in here, one of the labs covers that. So good. Cool. Okay. Thank you, Utkarsh. So that's first couple of topics down. We were going to talk about this briefly. Here's my request for all of your help. Meshery has been in the the v0.4.x phase in this minor release for a while. I think we're up to the 27th release. We are on the precipice of, starting to do some beta releases for our halfway to prod ready, project conceptually, right? Like the v1.0 indicates kind of a production ready thing. Help me, if you would, each of you, write up what our release announcement looks like. There's some significant new architectural components that are coming through. And this is the start of that description. So some of you, like Mr. Patel, you've had a heavy hand in GraphQL and making that available. What does that mean, and a little bit of how does that work? Why do users care that it'll be there? What do we expect that they do with it? Anirudh, the context command in Meshery CTL, it's a big deal. It's something people have been asking for a while. What is it? How does it work? Just a synopsis and summary of these things.
Context commands are more or less integrated, and now we just need to add all these features into it. So
cool. Wait, hold on. All right, good deal. Actually, put that into the doc if you would, so we can get that into the release announcement, and then we're going to circle right back to that conversation. You're going to share a quick doc or something about the status of the system command. So hold that thought if you would.
Yeah, cool.
All right. So yeah, again, everybody, please, if you've landed, if you had one of your PRs merged, likely you've impacted this release. So good to get your work described. All right, next up, any questions on that? I'll say we'll end up with a blog post, like was done for V04. So it's been a while, but we'll want to describe a lot further what's happening, or the features in the release. So.
Hey Lee, I had a question. How detailed would be the release note which you are gonna have?
Yeah, that's a good. Let me point you to a doc, because I think people can get a little prescriptive here, and it's been a point of discussion in the past, like what is a change log, what's a release note, what's a release announcement, what's a feature exploration. And we'd written down sort of our approach to those things, and I was sure that had landed out here. I will find it. The short answer to your question is that you can't be descriptive enough. Like if we do send out, if there was a short announcement in an email, like, it might be as long as a page, but it would have lots of links to full-blown descriptions and kind of walkthroughs of the features themselves. So like a blog post that walks people through the fact that GraphQL is now a thing in the .5 release, and what port it runs on, what type of queries, what type of views come baked in, the fact that you can bring your own resolvers, you can point people to the database schema, and blah, blah, blah. Like that would be wonderful, like to walk them through that whole thing. So there's a little bit of a difference between like the release announcement. It'll highlight the major things, but hopefully will include a bunch of links to where people can really go through it. Those links can either be to blog posts or they can be to the docs themselves.
Okay, makes sense.
The blog posts or the feature walkthroughs in the docs. Hey, if not, you can do a video recording You can include yourself or not include yourself, include your voice or not include your voice. Like there's the more of what you guys put out there, the better. All right. Next up, so Shriti and Alonso, I think we touched on this a little bit earlier. Anything else to add on this topic?
Currently, no. If anybody else is free and wants to help with this, they're very welcome to stay after the call and join the discussion.
Mert, he has expressed a desire to transcribe to Turkish. Do you guys know Mert's last name? Is it Gott?
GOR. The last is R.
Cool. He may or may not be available for that call, but if as you guys come forth with the framework, you might keep him informed. All right. Next up, Mr. Patel.
Yup.
So Vinayak, good to see you on. What Dhruv is going to go through probably touches a little bit on some of the focus area for you as well in Meshery UI.
Yeah, so okay, let's talk about the overview board first. It was just an attempt to see how the dashboard could look like, and if we wanted to change a UI and make something new out of it. So this was like a prototype or something I vision it would look like, and so here it is. Thought for your pennies. Yes. It's pretty simple now, nothing much. We are using the current data from the dashboards itself, but we would love your opinion since it's UI, and at the end, you guys are going to use it.
yeah. Everybody's got an opinion because, well, Dhruv, if you don't mind, if to help people contrast against how this info is presented currently, yeah.
Yeah, sure. So this is how it is presented currently. So what probably I think should happen would be something like the settings panels and all this kind of stuff would be shifted into the settings tab itself, and the data which you see in the left should be the main thing which you should probably see when you open up Meshery. All the meshes which are in your local development and which can be supported by Meshery and which are currently deployed.
Nice. So feedback for and Dhruv, if you happen to have that Figma link handy, you might. Here, I'll put it into the chat. You might share it with folks about where else, sort of this being a draft and sort of what potential future work might be done here.
Can you share your screen with Figma? My Figma doesn't work in Linux for me.
Sure. So hopefully everyone can see this. Okay. All right. That's a bad joke. Just kidding. I think I gave everyone the wrong link. Bear with me. Yeah, let's put this into the meeting minutes. And as the meeting minutes. All right. By the way, what happened to the Meshery logo? Who desecrated the no doubt by accident, but anyway, we'll have to put it back in. Okay, meeting minutes, the Figma. So good. So Dhruv has been working on a number of different areas of Meshery, and one of those is Mesh Map, the visual topology, and he's been sort of limping along with some mock-ups that have been done in Google Slides, and they're okay. But we as a community, collectively, a number of us have been getting better at Figma as a wireframing as a rapid prototyping, rapid design tool. And so, so narrowly avoiding having to pay for user seats, I think we've been able to exchange a bit in Figma. And so the link that's being shared here, there's a few Meshery screens that are being designed. And so Dhruv is working in a couple of areas actually on some new design, but one of those is this multi-mesh overview. And here's, well, maybe some pie in the sky, I don't know, but here's a bit of, and Dhruv, I don't know if you want to maybe take it from here and explain part of the thinking.
The thinking behind this was basically we would separate each of the meshes based on like which one it was deployed and give them ability to whether show a more detailed version of their particular deployment or like show a miniature version that is present in the system or not. And most probably in future, we would also add things like how many tests are they running properly, if there are any errors in their deployment or not, and stuff like that.
Speaking of that, I don't want to digress, but speaking of that, Utkarsh, you've been working a little bit on notifications and that framework. So that's something else to talk about. I was going to bring up the fact that Dhruv and Beneath and a number of others have been, well, I've been trying to, work through information architecture and a bit of like infrastructure architecture, if you will, both in terms of like how MeshSync will discover a Kubernetes environment and discover a service mesh deployment and all of the objects, all the constructs that comprise Kubernetes and comprise the service mesh. So they've been working through the relationships of those objects. And consequently, they've also been working on how to present that information back to users, understanding that there's a little bit of a hierarchy to how these different objects relate to one another. And so most of us, or at this point probably are familiar with, at least nominally familiar with Kubernetes. And to the extent that you would say, well, I've deployed a Kubernetes cluster. Cluster is kind of a big word. Usually that means you're running one or more nodes, or many nodes, a node being a server. And so if you've deployed Kubernetes in Minikube or Docker Desktop or something like that, usually it's like a single node cluster. But you've come to understand that a cluster can have many nodes. Okay, and that's how those two objects relate to one another. Okay, well, if you're working in a larger environment, you might be running multiple clusters. And so there's this hierarchy of the way that these objects relate to one another. And Vineet and Dhruv in particular have been giving thought as to how to let people visually navigate all that info. Hence, and part of that is surfacing in what Dhruv was just showing in terms of like sort of a, sort of the highest level of view of all of your service meshes. So not a multi-cluster view, because we're really not looking at clusters here. We're looking at different service mesh deployments. And what this dashboard acknowledges is that you might have no deployments of a given surface mesh. Okay, that makes sense. You might have one deployment of this type of service mesh, Kuma. So this is, and it's called Kuma A, But you might have multiple deployments of the same type of mesh. So Istio, in this case, maybe you're running 2 instances of an Istio service mesh. Okay, and so it's sort of, and so this view being kind of the top level view, the bird's eye view. And as Drew was showing, there's only so many details that he's servicing at the moment, with the understanding that like a user might go ahead and click into to get more details of a given deployment. So. Good feedback for Drew. But it's Vinayak, I called you out because you're getting ready to do a few things in the UI, and so good. So we're getting more organized as a community on and purposeful about things that we're bringing forth. Drew, I don't know if if it's the right time or convenient enough to show what you had done for the Meshery operator as well, or if we just want to look at the mock-up or.
I don't have it running because I was running the overview Meshery, but the conflict which we were having in the PR, I can talk about that. I just currently the PR we were sitting on it because we had to implement most probably a GraphQL subscription to like get a steady stream of status of all the deployments which are there, which is currently just a API endpoint. So like I had talked with Abhishek before this call, and for now probably we are gonna go with long polling for now, and as soon as we are able to have a GraphQL subscription, we will be doing that. So that is good to go now.
Cool. And then, whoops, just a little bit of context for everyone else. There's a new Meshery component coming forth. It's a Kubernetes operator. We call it Meshery operator. It will control a couple of other subcomponents. Mesh sync, very, very, very important component. It'll also control a messaging broker. We're going to be using NATs. And so when in the future, when we get to the v0.5 release that we're going to, with all of your help, we're going to start to do beta releases of. It'll include an operator, and when you run Meshery and when you connect Meshery to a Kubernetes cluster, Meshery is going to go ahead and try to deploy this operator and deploy these subcomponents. And so Drew has been working in the UI to make it so, to make it so you can. So cool. So good. So for any of you that raises questions and things, I mean, don't hesitate to bring those up in Slack and stuff. I mean, so we've got about 15 more minutes on this call. Oh, Drew, yeah, this is what you were just talking about. I sort of missed the fact that, so I guess, so follow along here for anyone that wants to. Drew, was there anything else to mention on this?
Nope.
Okay.
That's all.
Okay, cool. All right. Over to Anirudh.
Can you actually open the link I sent you on Slack? Or maybe I'll send it to you in here.
Okay.
Okay.
Here we go.
Did you need something like this, which actually says which command, is it context aware and is it platform aware?
Yeah, this is great. This is great. And yeah, just for everyone, for my and everyone else's benefit, do you want to speak to it? Actually, if you And if you want, if you drop this into the Meshery, I'm sorry, the layer 5 community drive.
Doc itself or into the Meshery CTL file?
The doc itself, or that file. Yeah, probably keep this doc separate just because it's a temporary.
Okay.
But anyway, when you do, I'll try to help with the formatting. So while Anirudh is doing that, Anirudh has been busy working on bringing forth a new subcommand. It's Meshery CTL system context. And it is aimed at helping you configure your Meshery deployment. Sometimes you only want to run one adapter in your deployment. Sometimes you want to run 3 or maybe 10. Well, this context command will help you configure your Meshery deployment. Sometimes you're deploying to Docker, sometimes you're deploying to Kubernetes. This context command will track different Meshery deployment configurations in a file called config.yaml. That file is located in your user directory in the hidden folder Meshery, so config.yaml. And so, Anirudh, so I guess, yeah, if you walk us through kind of a quick status of each of these are Meshery CTL system commands.
Yeah, so sure. So so basically here we have 2 different status, and as I mentioned, that's context aware and platform aware. Context aware is mainly the part because first you need to make everything context aware, because the platform, and there are many attributes that a certain environment will have, and that all those come under the context. Once this command is context aware, then I make it to platform aware. That's basically it. It will be smart enough to see what you're using. That's if it's GKE, AKS, or Docker. Usually in local people use Docker, but there are some people who use Kubernetes from scratch. So to support that, that's platform aware. And currently I've put platform aware in most of the commands, in most of the system commands. This is the part on adding what to do in which platform. That's basically running script commands on if it's a particular platform. That's the only part remaining. And yeah, so these are the different commands. You have channel. Channel basically you switch between stable and beta. I guess any other new commands. Yeah, and then you have context, which is basically switching between environments, Meshery deployments. 1 minute. Yeah, and any other new command? No, any other? We don't have any other new commands. So this is entirely on what we have with context and what we're trying to achieve. This doc, I've updated the status, and it's so what we're trying is to have all the commands here to completely platform aware and actually do something if it detects a different platform, and that's in progress. That's it. I guess take it forward to you, Lee.
Anybody have, if anyone has any interest in tossing around some Golang, this Meshery CTL is a great place to do it. And this isn't a small change. It's significant, bringing in context. Anirudh, looking forward, I wonder, there's an interesting set of discussions to have around the experimental command that you had previously worked on. And I'm going to put it into the meeting minutes, the experimental command for deploying service meshes, Meshery CTL. Mesh, and then, like Mesh CTL mesh start Istio, or like there's a number of things to do basically to interface with the adapters and to invoke a lot of the operations that you would otherwise invoke through the UI. We're gonna, that's sort of the next hill to, after we get support, platform support for Kubernetes, shifting over to this is next. So a lot of work to be done over there if people want to jump in. Nice. And the most appropriate channel is that Meshery CTL channel. Oh, Rodolfo, we're going to talk about some work being done in Cyprus and Netlify.
Yeah, Shirley want me to explain the issue of Netlify. And Netlify workflows were failing last week. So I only add a configuration in Netlify and update the gem files in order to avoid those errors.
Nice. So this, okay, very good. This is something that we might talk a little more in depth on sounds like in tomorrow's call, potentially.
Right. Yeah. Tomorrow can be the right place to explain this.
Nice. So just, yeah, anyway, if you're, I would say there's a lot of work that we're going to do in the mesh with continuous integration. We're at and actually the work inside that meeting is going to become more critical the closer that we get to a 1.0 for the project. If we can't have repeatable releases with a high degree of confidence that there are very few bugs that we've run through our unit tests and our integration tests and things, we're going to have a hard time getting to a 1.0 release. So I'm hopeful that, well, I don't know, I don't expect this meeting to go away for some time. It's just so yeah, so tomorrow is the CI meeting. I'll be there. All right, very good. Vinayak and Shubham. Vinayak, I figure you don't necessarily, you're getting familiar with Meshery UI, you've got your development environment kind of set up. Some of the questions that you have as you go to familiarize with the environment, it's really beneficial for everyone to walk through that and kind of see what's going on. Vinayak, are you in a position to sort of share your IDE to and have us kind of point you around the code, sort of orient you and orient everyone else?
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah.
Actually, I'm currently running this Zoom call on my Windows machine because there is some audio driver issues on my Linux machine as I configured it yesterday. So I won't be able to open the code editor on it right now.
Okay. Okay, got you. Yep. Fair enough. Okay, that was a short conversation. Good. Well, this is also Shriti, as you're tracking the newcomers call. This is I know that we've covered the Meshery UI, Meshery backend, kind of covered all how to get started with each of the components in there. We have some recordings on some of those, which are probably helpful. But as part of our sort of recurring newcomer agenda, it might make sense to every 5 weeks or so, introduce people.
Sure. I'll add a agenda topic. That effort.
Shubham, do we want to take a quick look at the issue that you were experiencing, or?
I'll just do one thing. I'll try to talk to the people who already been configured it properly. I think I wasn't having any issue with the UI part of it. I was more with the end-to-end one, the one that requires both the front end and the back end. So I'll do one thing. I'll just revisit it once again. I'll ask probably Utkarsh and anyone who's involved in that particular issue. If it's not so, then I'll definitely set up the Kubernetes. The only thing that is stopping me is that initially I thought that uh, actually my machine is not that powerful that maybe I'll have Kubernetes and everything installed and up and running. So before I started, I thought that maybe Kubernetes was not a requirement. But if it is so, even if the bug is not fixed, then I'll try to set it up on a VM or something like that.
If it isn't, hit me up. Well, let's do a quick. I mean, if it isn't, then probably we've still got a latent issue. So we would. But anyway, I'm
So
free, so I'll help.
okay, so we can do it right now, or like maybe, or I'll just do thing. I'll just figure it out
Yeah.
on myself, and then I'll just ping you up.
Sounds great. Yeah, no, I'm just I'm raising my hand to help as you go through it if you bump into it.
All right. The newcomers call might be a good place for this as well. I'll have a placeholder for
Yeah,
you.
I'll join tomorrow.
Shubhank, a quick question. So do you have Docker running on your machine or
Yeah,
not?
I do have
Yeah,
Docker.
you can simply use Docker, I guess.
But I think the issue that day that I highlighted in the Slack chat was that it is throwing some sort of yeah. Let me just quickly grab that error. It was
Yeah.
Yeah, it was something like invalid memory address or a nil pointer dereference. It was like a segmentation violation sort of
Okay,
error. So
can
I
you
think, yeah.
point me to the exact part? I don't
Uh,
think, because Kubernetes is not exactly a dependency, at least for now. It's not a complete dependency. You can work
mhm.
on both the UI and backend as well without having to set up a
Yeah.
Kubernetes on your system.
Yeah, so I just shared that particular message which I like posted on Meshery, so I pinged you directly in the Slack in personal.
Okay.
So like I'm not pretty sure that this was actually not my diagnosis that it has to have Kubernetes. It was Dave and like we were having a discussion over there. So it was linked to another bug, I think, which was on the mesh sync like, repository.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
are you working on meshing by any chance? Because the work over there currently you need a cluster up and running.
Hmm.
Okay. So I'll just try to figure it out once again. I'll try to make sure that I follow all the steps correctly, and if not, so then I'll ask again in the chat, or maybe we can pair whenever anyone of you is available, if that's convenient.
Yeah, yeah. My bet. I'll bet you $1, $5 that the issue isn't there. That yeah, there was a bug that had been merged or that was latent as we were bringing forth support for mesh sync. I think it's gone. If it isn't,
Okay.
we can overcome it quickly. Nice.
Okay. I'll do that, and I'll probably share this like in the tomorrow's newcomer meeting as well. Like,
Nice. Very good. All right. Well,
yeah.
did we miss anybody? Any so Mukul, tomorrow's the day, man. Thursday is the Meshery CI meeting. So Rodolfo is starting us back up. Anybody have any other items?
I'm happy to join.
Oh, nice. Good. Mukul. It'll be great to have you there. And then one other thing that I sort of like it was sort of a side announcement while we were kind of talking about some stuff is Augustine, you're on, and I figured I would just it was sort of understood probably that as we're doing a lot of work in Figma on the next generation version of the layer 5 IO site, all kinds of you're moving mountains over there. It's great. The sites can be beautiful. I thought I would just say, hey, you're in mind as we're working on some of these things here. in Meshery that some of your talents will come to bear at some point here as well. So.
Well, sure. So now, immediately we begin the Meshery. I'll jump on it now at a fast pace.
Yeah. As after you get unburied from the other work. Nice. Okay. Shriti, we didn't miss anything, did we?
I don't believe so. We good to go. If nobody has anything else to add, then that's it for today's meeting. Thank you for coming in, everybody. Same time next week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye,
See you
Shreddy.
guys.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Alonso, if you're still there, we can actually continue with this call itself.
Yes, still here. Thank you.
Hey, perfect. Let's continue with this call itself. Don't really need to switch to another one. All right, have you had a look at the issue yet?
I haven't been looking at the issue itself. Let me open that. But I was reading material about the Jekyll plugin to the GitHub pages and how to implement that. So I've been reading about that, but I haven't been reading about the issue on the GitHub repository, right?
Yep.
Okay, let me open that.
All right. You could see the screen itself if that works.
Yeah. Okay.
Perfect. All right. So the plugin works pretty similarly to almost any other Jekyll plugin and doesn't really need much of a big change. The only exception is that the Meshery repo is based on something called the Doxy theme. You'll find links to it in the issue itself, and if it's not there, I'll be sure to include it. Post that, and the plugin is this itself. It's designed for Jekyll, and you don't need to go do a lot of, let's say, changes to it. The only difference is that you need to revamp the folder structure as a possibility if the current Meshery repo structure does not validate the entire plugin folder structure. Have you worked with Jekyll before, by the way?
No, first time.
All right. Have you set up the dev environment yet? Have you had a chance to?
Well, I've been getting into the materials, but I haven't been able to, set up a prototype or something. But I've been reading about the config and the YAML files that have to be into. So about the implementation of Jekyll itself. But yeah, I think if someone has been the principal person to config these whole pages, so collaborating with this person will be the right choice, I think.
All right. Do you mean somebody who's working on this particular issue, or?
Yeah, or in the setup of these whole pages.
All right. I would be a good person to talk to.
Excellent. Okay.
So
Perfect.
You're in the right place then. All
Okay.
right. Let's get you set up with the Jekyll environment first of all, and let's get the
Okay.
Meshery docs site running. As a first, there should be a intro doc that should help you. Which OS do you use?
Okay. Okay. I am watching the Corsten. Okay. Let me open that. Jekyll. Oh.
Right. Which operating system do you use, Alonso?
I'm sorry. What? That's the
Which,
question.
yeah, which operating system do you use?
Ah, okay. Yeah, Catalina on Mac.
All right, perfect. We should have a docs that should guide you through the setup. It's not
Okay.
particularly difficult on Mac as it is on Windows, mainly because it involves setting up a Ruby environment.
Mm-hmm.
Let me
So
go to the docs.
I have the Ruby Gems version 303,
Mhm.
and I have installed I think globally
Yep.
the Jekyll language plugin,
Mhm.
and that has a version that it says 135.
All right. Let me ask you this. Do you have a Ruby version manager installed, or do you have Ruby installed directly?
I think I have Ruby installed directly. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
That is a slight issue with Jekyll because different sites need different versions of it. So you need to
Okay.
be able to
Okay.
switch between versions. So
Mm.
going with something like RVM, or which is a Ruby version manager, or something similar is easier in
Okay.
the long run. But you should be good
Okay.
to go anyway. Let me share a doc with you that
Mm-hmm.
should guide you through the steps, or should at least point you towards the right links.
Mm-hmm.
I'll drop it in the chat itself. There you go. It's
Yeah.
not
Thank
exactly
you.
a long installation, shouldn't take more than 10 minutes, to be honest, if you don't run into any errors.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. All right, so once you have that up and running, all you need to do is clone or fork the Meshery repo, go into the docs folder, and run a particular command, which I'll add here, or it should be added here anyway. Um, yep, that should serve.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right, take your time to do the setup. Take a day or two, as much as you need. Post that. Um, if you haven't worked with Jekyll before, you need a little bit of time to get adjusted to the way it handles sites. It's not a usual website structure. It basically sorts through everything and stores whatever data you want in Markdown files with HTML layouts that are pre-configured.
Okay.
All right, and if you haven't worked with that, it takes, let's say, a little bit of time to get completely used to it.
Mm-hmm.
Shouldn't be a big thing, to be honest, but still worth saying. Apart from that,
Okay.
after you are familiar with the Jekyll structure, the document structure, and the Meshery site structure, this repo will be the perfect place to start out with. They even have a bit of documentation. So the only problem, or the only reason we haven't done this so far, is because it'll require a slight revamp of the folder structure in the Meshery repo. The way this plugin is created or developed is slightly different from the way the Doxy theme has been created and the way we set up the Meshery site.
Mm-hmm.
So we will need to change it up a little bit. So for example, this plugin is called I18N, by the way, and it adds subfolders for each language. And we are using this plugin because we are having workshops with different communities, and they are doing manual translations of the pages. So it doesn't automatically translate a page. All it does is use or pull up a translation that has already been done, and it shows it on the site. It also adds a switching button that is for different languages. That's a handmade version of that has already been added to the site, but we need to remove that and we need to add the actual plugin because it's too much effort to go add that for every single language. So when you see the Espanol option here, that is for Spanish. This is completely handmade. No plugin is in use here. It is just an option to pull up the pages that were translated for us. This should be done with the plugin and not this way. You should be able to see the code for this as well. I'll PM you the link to that particular commit so that you can see the exact changes that were made. But when we integrate the plugin, this will be taken out. And we'll switch to the plugin itself. Apart from that, that's it. That's all the resources I can provide right now that you will need right now.
Yeah.
Post that after you have your dev environment set up and after you have given at least a README of this particular repo, a little bit of a read. Let's get together and let's see how we can progress.
Yeah,
Does
of
that make
course.
sense?
Yeah. Yes, it does a lot of sense. I now understand a lot more. I will get my environment set up today, and what is the strategy? So maybe about the development of this whole revamp. The folder structure is getting a new branch on the GitHub repo.
No.
Or
So
is
yeah. So the site is hosted on JS pages or GitHub pages, and the entire source code of the site is stored in the docs folder inside the repo. We don't have it in another branch. We have it on the main branch itself. And so GitHub pages pulls up the source code through a config file, which you'll find inside the doc itself. And if you want to read about that, the Jekyll documentation is actually pretty good, except for the setup part. I don't know why they haven't updated it. But apart from that, it explains the process pretty well. So if you want to go read about that, or if you want to go understand that a bit better, that would be the perfect place to start. Let me put the link to that in the minute itself.
I think I did finally found that. But yeah, include the link, please.
Sure.
Okay.
Let me do that. All right, steps here. Set up Jekyll dev environment. There you go.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so I will try to make this whole setup thing today and start working or reading about it. And I will try also to enter these whole meetings. And if you got the chance after the meetings like today, we can see what the next step about it.
Sure. Let's get you set up first. Let's get you comfortable with the Jekyll. And would that take more than, say, 2 or 3 days? I'm assuming you have a full-time job as well.
Yeah, but I got two even.
Yeah. I'll let you decide how much time will it take for you to.
Yeah, I will try to take the fastest I can within my free spare time. But I one of my jobs is to be a faculty member in a university here in Mexico where I live.
All right.
So in the next 4-month term, I will have interns that are in a kind of program that is like a professional associative or something like that, like technical.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I was thinking, and even I was commenting a lot of things about Meshery to them. So besides getting them to know the Meshery in layer 5, I was hoping that maybe there could be a chance to. I don't know about this project in particular, about the language and translations and the Jekyll plugin. I think that maybe this could be done in a couple of months, max or tops, but I don't know really right now. I hope so. So, but it will be with you also that we could see the possibilities in an internship and in any home working kind of situation right now. Yeah, you could also been doing that too also for year layer 5.
Yep, I have.
Excellent. So and even though could these kind of things it will be great for my teacher curriculum that I have been collaborating in even in these small things with a company that like layer 5. So after this small thing about the Jekyll and stuff, could I give you a document that it could be signed and then get it back to me so I can get into my curriculum?
Sure. What do you exactly mean by get it into your curriculum?
Yeah, maybe the word is not the right one. It's on my resume. I
Yeah.
think it's
Ah,
that.
gotcha. That makes much more sense.
Yeah,
All right, yeah,
yeah.
that works.
Okay, excellent. So thank you very much, Shinji, and I will get to this right now.
All right. Let's meet up next week then, if you're free.
Sorry.
Let's meet up next week then, if you're free.
Okay, yeah, of course. Next week, this day, Wednesday.
All right.
Okay,
Perfect.
perfect.
Works.
Yeah, I will be checking the Slack, and I don't know why the Slack kind of freezes up on me, but if it's more comfortable for you to get a message on Slack, okay, or even if you want to send an email, it will work for me both ways.
All right. I'll keep that in mind. If I can't catch you on Slack, I'll mail you.
Okay, thank you very much, Tracy. Have a nice day.
Thank you. You too. Talk to you later.
Bye. Talk.